The NASCAR offseason is winding down, which means cars will be on track before we know it. Here's a quick crash course to get you up to speed ahead of the 2026 season. After months of rumors, deliberation, and speculation, NASCAR decided to overhaul the playoff system, returning to a much simpler format reminiscent of the original chase for the Cup. The new chase will take the top 16 in points at the end of the regular season and reset the standings so that the leader has a 25-point gap to second, 10 more points back to third, then 5-point intervals between everyone else. Win and you're in is gone, but now wins pay 55 points instead of 40. So getting to victory lane still extremely important if you want to be a serious championship contender. The 16 chase qualifiers will battle it out over the final 10 races to determine the Cup Series champion.
I think that this is the most perfect compromise that you could ever ask for.
The chase is much more simple with a greater emphasis on points, no extra resets, drivers have to be more consistent. In other rule changes, NASCAR has increased the horsepower from 670 to 750 at all tracks under 1.5 miles long, as well as all road courses. Yes, that even includes ovals like Darlington Raceway, Phoenix, Gateway. And the changes don't stop there. Besides the aforementioned Chase branding returning, another major branding change is the O'Reilly Auto Parts series taking over what was formerly known as the Xfinity series. After more than a decade in that role, Xfinity has passed the torch to the auto parts store with the catchy jingle. Remember when watching live sports on TV was simple? Now, the NFL playoffs are on 4 or 5 different networks every week. The NBA will bounce from Peacock to Prime Video to ESPN. Does Major League Baseball still do that weekly Apple TV game? Unfortunately, NASCAR really is no different. Now, the Craftsman Truck Series, every single race will be broadcast on Fox or FS1, and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series will once again be exclusively shown on the CW. But just like last year, the NASCAR Cup Series is all over the place. Broadcast, cable, 5 exclusive races on Prime Video in May and June. TNT will once again cover the in-season challenge, NBC and USA to wrap things up. I color coordinated this schedule graphic to show how the year starts on the Fox family of networks before moving to Prime, TNT, and then finishing on the NBC family. But expect a lot of races on cable. Speaking of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, the season once again kicks off with the Bowman Gray Clash February 1st, followed by the first points race of the season 2 weeks later, the 68th running of the Daytona 500. To celebrate America's 250th birthday, NASCAR will race at Naval Base Coronado off the coast of San Diego, California in June. The trucks, O'Reilly, and NASCAR Cup Series will race between fighter jets and aircraft carriers just a couple weeks before Independence Day. NASCAR legend Jimmy Johnson has announced he'll race both the Truck and Cup Series races that weekend, chasing one more shot at glory near his hometown. With the new chase format comes a new season finale. After ending the season in the desert at Phoenix Raceway the last 6 years, Homestead Miami Speedway will once again host NASCAR Championship Weekend, November 6th through 8th. The championship race is expected to rotate between several venues over the next few years, with both Homestead and Phoenix being a part of that group. Phoenix Raceway is still in for a pretty exciting 2026. Their spring date will welcome not only the O'Reilly Auto Parts and NASCAR Cup Series, but also the IndyCar Series for the first NASCAR IndyCar Cup Series doubleheader since the Indy Road Course days a few years back. A few other notables. Watkins Glen has been moved from its late summer slot to May instead. Chicagoland is back on the schedule over July 4th weekend. North Wilkesboro will host a Cup Series points race just a couple weeks later, and the Craftsman Truck Series will join IndyCar on the streets of St. Petersburg at the end of February. Oh, and the All-Star race is at Dover now. because it had to go to some SMI-owned track, I suppose. After spending 5 years at Trackhouse, the team opted to go in a newer, younger direction, allowing Daniel Suarez to sign with Spire. He'll be the third different driver of the number 7 Chevy in the last 3 years, looking to help that team get to victory lane for the first time in the next-gen car era. That young gun I referenced is Connor Zilisch, who burst onto the scene last year, winning 10 O'Reilly Series races, but lost the one-race championship in heartbreaking fashion to his good friend and rival, Jesse Love. Now, Zilisch is ready to race full-time in the Cup Series, but how steep will that learning curve be? Fortunately, he has the benefit of working with veteran, race-winning crew chief Randall Burnett, who joins Trackhouse after spending the past few years with RCR. Denny Hamlin is looking for redemption following his own crushing 2025 defeat. Hamlin was 3 laps away from winning his first career championship when William Byron blew a tire, hit the wall, prompted a caution, a pit sequence where Hamlin's team opted for 4 tires over track position. Hamlin was unable to make up enough ground in the final 2 laps, allowing Kyle Larson to win the championship instead. At 45 years old, Denny Hamlin is the oldest full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver, but it didn't seem to slow him down much last season. A tumultuous offseason for Denny Hamlin included a 2-week trial in a federal courthouse and the tragic loss of his father, Dennis Hamlin. Denny only has 2 years left on his contract with Joe Gibbs Racing. All eyes will be on the 11. Kyle Larson is looking for his 3rd Cup Series championship. That would put him in rare air. Joey Logano is looking for his 4th title, looking to keep that even year pattern alive. William Byron is still chasing his 1st championship, but he has the opportunity to win his 3rd straight Daytona 500 next month. The New Zealand driver Shane Van Gisbergen dominated the road courses last year, but can his new young teammate Connor Zilisch present a serious challenge? The two went door to door in the O'Reilly Auto Parts series last year, occasionally getting into each other's doors, a friendly rivalry worth keeping an eye on. Their teammate and defending Coca-Cola 600 winner Ross Chastain has a new crew chief. Brandon McSwain joins the team after spending the past few seasons as an engineer for William Byron's Hendrick Motorsports group. 2012 Cup champion Brad Keselowski finished last year strong, but broke his leg slipping on ice this offseason. Has already announced he will miss the Clash, but hopes to be ready to go by Daytona. And speaking of Daytona, after a successful 2025 attempt, Junior Motorsports, Chris Stapleton, and Justin Allgaier are back for more. They are returning to the World Center of Racing and will attempt to qualify for their 2nd straight Daytona 500. Finishing 9th in their debut last season set a pretty high bar that Dale Jr. and company will attempt to clear once again. Talk about pressure. Can young guys like Ty Gibbs and Carson Hocevar finally break through to get that first win? Can the Killer Bees of Briscoe, Bell, or Byron get that championship after coming up just short in recent years? Then there are other drivers facing different kinds of pressure as well. Free agency is sure to be fascinating this year. There are a number of drivers whose contract status is unknown, but several high-profile stars are known to be on expiring deals, like Hendrick Motorsports' Alex Bowman. He's raced full-time for Hendrick since 2018, but after a winless 2025 and only one win the past 3 full years, some are wondering if his seat is secure long-term. Primary sponsor Ally is still signed with the team, so perhaps that relationship is strong enough to keep Alex in the seat, but he could really silence the doubters with a strong start to the 2026 season. And how about Kyle Busch? The 2-time Cup Series champion is currently riding a 93 race winless streak. by far the longest of his Hall of Fame career. Richard Childress Racing brought in a new crew chief this offseason, Jim Pullman. Can this duo find some speed, or will Kyle Busch be looking elsewhere for a new contract by the midpoint of the season? I'll mention Corey Heim as well. The young driver just put together the greatest Craftsman Truck Series season we've ever seen, but he still doesn't have any confirmed plans for 2026 and beyond. He grew up a Denny Hamlin fan. Hopefully 2311 can find a competitive place for Heim sooner rather than later. There are sure to be other names that come up as silly season takes shape, but you'll have to stay tuned throughout the year to keep up with what could be many driver team changes. Speaking of team changes, Ram is back in the Craftsman Truck Series. The iconic brand is returning, this time with Colleague Racing. A full-time lineup of Brendan Queen, Justin Haley, and Daniel Dye will be joined by select all-stars such as Tony Stewart, who will come out of NASCAR retirement to compete at Daytona in the season opener. They've also got a fourth full-time free agent truck. There's a reality TV show premiering January 25th to find out who gets that seat. Ram is going all in, and they're keeping one eye towards the NASCAR Cup Series as well, likely with their other brand, Dodge. They won't be Cup racing this season, but while the window may be tight, they haven't ruled out possibly going Cup racing as soon as 2027, something to keep an eye on. Chevrolet made a slight change to their Cup Series Camaro, adapting parts of a real-world ZL1 accessory kit into their new stock car design. While the cosmetic changes may be subtle, this marks Chevy's first design change since they altered the nose ahead of the 2023 Cup season. And Chevy has added some reinforcements as well, with single car teams Haas Factory Team and Rick Ware Racing joining the Bowtie Brigade. This has had a noticeable effect on Ford's O'Reilly operation for sure, with Haas joining Chevrolet. Their numbers were already thin. Ford may have a tough time getting to victory lane in NASCAR's secondary series. We'll wrap up with this. One of the biggest ongoing stories of 2025 was the antitrust lawsuit between 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports and NASCAR, the sanctioning body. After nearly 18 months of motions, discovery, and litigation, the two sides went to trial in early December. After 8 tenuous days in court, the two sides were able to reach a settlement. The race teams made off quite well. Along with financial considerations, they were granted evergreen permanent charters, as well as a cut of future revenue streams. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have regained their charter status and are planning to compete full-time in 2026. There may have been some smiles on the courthouse steps, but internally, it's been another story. NASCAR CEO Jim France's stubbornness was put on full display, and his unwillingness to engage with the teams during the 2024 charter negotiations created much of the strife and turmoil that resulted in the lawsuit itself. Someone at NASCAR had to take the fall, and Commissioner Steve Phelps was the clear target after texts he made about legendary team owner Richard Childress surfaced through the discovery process. Phelps had texted other NASCAR executives that he thought Childress was an idiot, a stupid redneck, etc. Ugly messages that ultimately resulted in Phelps stepping down, resigning from his position as commissioner, and NASCAR at this time has chosen not to name a new commissioner, meaning its internal leadership structure is currently somewhat in flux. But that's off track now. Our attention turns to the racetrack. The Clash at Bowman Gray is just days away, followed shortly thereafter by the Great American Race. Hopefully this video helped get you up to speed, catch you up on some of the broad storylines and major changes and moves that you may have missed during the off season. If you're new to the channel, I host Out of the Groove every single day. We talk about the latest races, interview drivers, and cover the most recent rumors and news from around America's favorite racing series. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new. We'll have you covered all year long. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great rest of your day.